Hello and welcome to this Rapid Fire Wargaming Army Showcase. I'm Danvers and this is my Blood Angels army. If you've seen any of our battle reports you might recognise it. I've been collecting for about 4 or 5 years now, again after a 20-year or so break from Warhammer, and I'm quite a slow painter, so that's why I've got a massive army. But I've also got 2 small children, which might explain it as well. So today I thought, in the middle of a battle report, because we can't record any because of the blooming virus, I'll talk you through my army, tell you about my favourite units, how I run it, and where it's going next. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so from a flock perspective, I'm running mostly 5th Company of the Blood Angels, the Demon Banes as they're called. In Games Workshop's narrative, the captain is called Captain Sandini. I've taken a bit of creative license and I have a captain in my 5th Company called Malio, Captain Anton Malio. So he usually appears in my army list because I like to run a smash captain, as most Blood Angels do. He appears in a couple of different forms. There's the version here with the jump back and the Thunderhammer and Storm Shield classic smash captain loadout, which is great. But I also have a Death Company version in Terminator armour because I really love the Sergeant Gideon model from Space Hulk, so I've got one of those as well. He is amazing. Blood Angel Smash Captains are still the best, really, I think, probably, just about. He has the Angels win usually, because it's sort of modelled on him, and also because it's such a good relic. Preventing Overwatch is so good. He is always accompanied into battle by Lieutenant Nazario, who is to the right of him, or to his left, your right. He has a combi blast because it looks cool, and he either has a chainsaw or a power axe, depending on points usually. I love a lieutenant as well. Quite a lot of my army is running power fists and things like that, so high strength weapons. So I really want to make sure that those things that don't necessarily hit very well definitely wound, and the lieutenant's reroll 1 to wound aura is very useful for that. So other HQs, I recently thought Commander Dante needed an upgrade, so I converted him into a Chromaris Marine, and he's hanging out at the front there, leading the charge. Haven't really run him very much because he's quite a new model. But I was hoping that with Psychic Awakening I would get, or Blood Angels players would get a full reroll for the Chapter Master, like the Codex Space Marine guys do. That would be really beneficial for my list, because I often have things like Power Fists and Thunderhammers in there, and those -1 to hits on those is a bit of a problem at the moment for me. So I was hoping that his Chapter Master ability would allow full rerolls. That hasn't happened yet, but maybe when the next Codex comes out, that could happen. That'd be really useful for my army. But even still, he's great, for everything that doesn't suffer a negative to hit. He's granting full rerolls. So running him up next to the heavy guns in my army is really useful for the first turn. And going forward, I think my plan is to probably keep him on the field, deploy him on the field, next to maybe the Storm Raven or the Autocannon Dreads. So that on the first turn, when the Devastator Doctrine's in effect, he can be buffing their hits, basically, making sure that those hits count, which will be really useful. Also love the character. I read Dante really recently, the novel, Battle Library novel, it's really good. And he's total badass. So, I wanted a version of him in my army, sort of future-proofing him as well by giving him a Primaris body, maybe, because I'm thinking they'll probably put him through the Rubicon like everyone else is at the moment. I don't know what I think about that fluff-wise, but he sort of deserves it. He's still trucking, he's a total badass, oldest living Space Marine apparently, so I think if he got refreshed a bit into a new body, then he would carry on serving the Imperium for another 1,000 years, So yeah, that's him. Hopefully he'll show up in a battle report soon when the lockdown ends. Okay, so other HQ units, I've got a couple I don't use so much. Librarian with a jetpack. He doesn't see much action because I'd like to make my librarians quite killy. I don't think Blood Angels or Librarians are actually that great supporting characters for the points. They've got a few good buffing spells like Unleash Rage and Shield of whatever it is, I can't remember. Shield of Sanguinius probably, and that gives a 5-up vulnerable save. But I tend to think for the points, you might as well take the Librarian Dread, like for a few more points. He can also do the buffing spells, but he's such a beat stick in combat. That's why I usually run this guy at the front here, Ancient Arundor, who is my Librarian Dreadnought, converted from a Custodes Achilles Pattern Dreadnought. Librarian Dreadnoughts are amazing. I've actually owned the Mephiston model, the new Primaris Mephiston model. Actually looking at his stats, I still think probably for the points, Librarian Dreadnought is a better bet. He's got the higher toughness, more wounds. His base speed is a bit slower, but you can obviously use Wings of Sanguinius, which makes him totally amazing. And his Psychic Awakening is a cool new relic, which makes his psychic powers more reliable. He's so good, he moves so far, like even amongst the rapid fire Wargaming guys, I think I still catch them out with how quickly he can move. Once he's moved his full, distance and then done his 12-inch move for wings, he's quite often up near the front. He's also a character, which is amazing, so he can be screened out by scouts that are hiding. So he's one of my favourite guys. He's just so powerful, like hitting on 2s, wounding most stuff because he's Blood Angel on 2 as well, and flat 3 damage on his halberd. It's just so good, especially when you start putting on the sort of psychic powers like Quickening, which allows him to increase his charge range and also D3 extra attacks. And then you can use Red Rampage, which is another strategy for another D3. So if you're lucky, you can get him up to like 10 attacks, plus on turn 3 now, another attack for Savage Echoes and Shock Assault, obviously. He is really, really, really brutal, and he's often brought down, he comes in by this way quite often, especially in the fight phase. So I love him, banging on about him now for ages. So yeah, as I was saying, I usually take him instead of this little librarian here, jump back guy. I enjoy painting that guy, but I don't use him very much. Similarly, the Sanguinary Priest here, really love the model as well. It's really good fun to paint. Don't run him that often, basically because I find his healing ability kind of unreliable. It spends the amount of times I've failed to get that resurrection, because you need to roll sort of 4 up or 3 up to bring a model back to life. I tend to not fail that, and then you're spending CPs to roll it. Is it worth it? Not really. His +1 strength is really cool in some lists, but most of my close combat stuff is pretty high strength already. It's often power fists or thunder hammers. So actually adding on to their strength is kind of useful situationally, but often it's a bit unnecessary given the amount of attacks that Blood Angels put out these days. But I think if I was running more Death Company or more Primaris heavy army, where I don't have those thunder hammers and power fists, it'd probably be quite useful. Strength 5 is kind of useful against Marines, I guess, and also he can once in a while bring someone back to life or heal himself, things like that. Okay, so the last HQ unit I've got in my army is the Sanguinor, another really great Blood Angel supporting character. He has a 6-inch aura, which gives +1 attacks to units within that 6 inches, which is really good. And he's a bit of a beat stick in combat as well. He can obviously fly. He's got doesn't have any shooting weapons. He's got ballistic skill 2, which is a bit weird, but he's very good at throwing grenades. And he's got a Incarmine broadsword, which I think is a D3 attack, D3 damage weapon, which is cool as well. And the amount of attacks he gets, because he obviously benefits from his own aura, can be quite horrific. He can also fall back from combat and charge again, which again in some situations is really useful, especially against big hordes when things can get locked down, like Tyranids or Orcs. You don't really want him stuck in combat, so he can fly out and charge again and get those benefits of charging that Blood Angels need so badly. So that's my HQs. Alright, so next up is my troops units. I've got a 10-man tactical squad at the moment. This was one of the first units I painted when I got back into Blood Angels. I really like the unit. They've obviously been superseded in a fairly big way by like the Primaris Marines now, but I still quite like running them. I think sometimes people don't expect a Storm Raven full of these guys to show up, and just for a laugh, I usually give them all flamers because that's also quite funny. And occasionally they'll do some work. Often they're even just useful for sort of screening out characters. If they jump out the Storm Raven and there's another character moving up the board, they can do that. Obviously they one wound, so they die quite easily. But then that's also true of the other troops I've got, which are the scouts. I've got 2 units of 5-man scouts, which I love. Like they're really good. Their forward deployment's amazing for screening characters. They tend to die fairly easily, especially against things like Thunderfire cannons, which we see quite a lot of now. If you watch me against Fingers' Son of the Phoenix, 2 units got wiped at the turn. So they are situationally pretty good if you can hide them, and the opponent doesn't have any of those kind of weapons, and they're great and they're really cheap, which is the main thing. So I've got 2 units of those. One unit has shotguns because they look cool. The others have bolters and heavy bolter. And I've got a couple of sniper rifles in there just because one day one of those snipers will actually do something, like take a wound or something important, which will be amazing. I'm waiting for that day. So yeah, troops. I definitely need more troops. That's something I really want to do. But Angels are such a CP heavy army that I really need to try and run a double battalion if I can. So I'll talk about it more later, but I've got some Primaris in the works now. Going to try and put out a double battalion for No Tree 9 later in the year if it happens. That would be cool. I've finally kind of come around to the idea of these Primaris Marines. I think the models are actually pretty awesome and really enjoy putting together an intercessor squad with sort of all Blood Angel bits and Thunderhammers on the sergeants and that kind of stuff. So that will be where the troops are coming from now on, probably, I think. So flyers, no Blood Angels army would be complete without a couple of flyers. I've got a Storm Talon. He's got magnetised weapons, so I can actually swap out these bolters for las cannons, which I sometimes do because I don't really have any long range infantry-based firepower. So it's quite nice to have a couple of las cannons in the list. And I also have the Storm Raven over there. Again, a few las cannons. They're so expensive, I tend to just like stick all weapons on them because if you're already paying for that chassis, you might as well have the weapons as well, I guess, and we have a chance that they survive past turn 1. I love Storm Ravens. I think they look awesome. I love the fact you can stick a Dreadnought in there, which is sort of the new way of getting a little stompy dread up the board these days. They obviously die super easily, like very hard to hide. If I don't get turn 1, they tend to blow up in my line, so I always deploy my troops and units outside of them so they can jump in on the off chance they're still there after the first turn. But if you do get the first turn, then they can be kind of glorious. You put loads of stuff in them, fly them up the board so that they're sitting kind of behind cover. So when they do inevitably get blown up, everything can disembark inside a building or behind a ruin. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, the -1 to hit can cause problems with some armies like orcs and those sort of armies that have terrible shooting, and then they can just kind of fly around the board deleting stuff. I tend to find that I spend a lot of time rolling dice on these guys, and often, they're often missing. It's quite hard to keep them in the within the aura of things like captains and chapter masters because they're so fast. So buffing their shooting is a bit tricky sometimes. But occasionally they'll do like cool things, and I just love the model. I feel very Blood Angel or E, I guess. I just wish they were a bit more durable. Could do with an invuln, that'd be amazing. If we don't get that, then maybe like a points drop, because I think that's totally overcosted. So those are my flyers. Okay, so next up is fast attack. I've got 6 scout bikers. I kind of think they're amazing. I love bikes in 40k. They're just so kind of grimdark and ridiculous, and I love the idea of these neophytes like cruising around on these bikes with 2 bolt guns on, with shotguns, and the sergeants have got storm bolters. So they actually kick out 16 bolter shots per 3-man unit. So they're kind of quite shooty, especially turn 2 where you're getting those -1 to hits on the bolters. The non-sergeants also have shotguns, so occasionally you can get up and get a few shots off. They're toughness 5, which is nice. 2 wounds. They obviously aren't competitive, but they're really fast. And sometimes on a objective-based game, it's really nice to be able to move 16 and then auto advance 6. So you're doing a 22-inch move. And that's often enough to get you from one objective to another. So it's really nice, they're really fast, and they can occasionally screen out characters who are moving up the board. I think they kind of just look cool as well. It's like amazingly 40k, these bikes, love them. They were painted by fingers actually. He did a great job on those last year. I was getting a bit panicky about my no retreat list, and he stepped in and did an amazing job replicating my scheme on those. So thanks for that, fingers. 2 other recent sort of additions, like I painted up this scenery. I thought it'd be awesome to use it in some kind of like siege bar kind of games. So I painted up a couple of these little gun turret kind of things. They're actually Land Raider gun turrets, the assault cannons from Land Raiders, and the bases from the Aegis Defence Line terrain kit. But I'm going to run them as tarantula sentry turrets, which are fast attack slots. So I'm thinking almost to the point, if I get a few more troops and another heavy slot painted up, then I can always run a brigade, which would be kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, so 2 fast attack slots because they kind of look cool and they can swivel around these little guns. And I love the idea of like a wave. So I'm hoping to do a narrative battle report with champs when the lockdown gets lifted. And that's going to involve his Walking Dead, Nurgle, play bear, already kind of like Nurgle the Englist, lurching towards this chapel and being defended, and all of these guns lighting up. And I love the idea of these twin assault cannons sort of, mowing down the undead. That's the plan for that. Or maybe the orcs or Terminators, any of that sort of thing would be amazing. So painted those up sort of as scenery pieces, but also as potentially usable in a game as well. Okay, so heavy support. Up until about 2 weeks ago, didn't have a single heavy support choice in my army. And a while ago, a friend gave me a couple of these little box Dreadnoughts, kind of old and needed paint stripping and that kind of stuff. I love Dreadnoughts, they're so amazing. They just look cool. And they're such classic 40k units. I just can't get enough of them really. I've got a few more that I need to paint up as well, some Death Company Dreads and stuff like that. But these guys, I was doing a big scenery push, so I actually had a couple of the Aegis Defence Line kits, which come with like a automated autocannon turret basically, which has obviously 2 twin autocannons on the side. So I took them off the defence turret thing and stuck them on the side of these Dreadnoughts. They're magnetised, so I can take them off and put them on the turret again if I need to for terrain or whatever. But these I'm running as a Forge World unit called Mortis Pattern Autocannon Dreads, so kind of rifleman dreads. I think standard Marine Dreadnought chassis with autocannons got put into Legends, but I think these are still valid units in match play. These are they show up as heavy support choices in Battlescribe for what that's worth. So I'm going to still run them because I think they look cool. Autocannons are one of my favourite 40k weapons. They're just so epic, like sitting in the back, sort of thudding away. So I've got 2 of those little sort of pair of ancient brothers who are going to put down some 48-inch long range fire support. I think they're strength 7, flat 2 damage maybe. I'm trying to remember now. And they're only -1 AP, but obviously on my first turn they'll be -2 because of the Devastator Doctrine. So I'll see how they play. Obviously they're going to die really easily, but they're pretty small, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to hide them occasionally so that they can survive to at least put a few shots downfield. And yeah, that's it. I think if I get one more heavy support, as I said, I'm going to have 3, which will get me a bit closer to a good brigade for all that's worth. And yeah, I just love the unit. Haven't really used them much yet, obviously, because I painted them and then we've not been able to play any games really. So looking forward to running those, and hopefully they'll show up in a battle report soon as well. Okay, so finally, my favourite Force Org slot, the Elite choices. is where Blood Angels have some really great options. It's where our really unique Blood Angel units appear. So I'll start with some non-unique ones. Tactical Terminators. I love Terminators. They're amazing. Not necessarily from a gameplay point of view, although they've got a lot better recently. But they're just such, amazing models. And I really prefer painting and playing really. So the thing that really drew me back into Blood Angels when I got back into them, or got back into 40k, or Games Workshop games, was Space Hulk. I got it for Christmas 4 or 5 years ago, and I thought, okay, I'm really sort of getting this feeling that I wanted to be doing some modelling and painting again. So I don't want to get into 40k or 60s. It's massive time sink and expensive. So I'll just get Space Hulk to scratch the itch. And of course, Space Hulk is still sitting on my shelf, and I've gone back in a big way. But I'm actually, on my painting table right now are 5 more Tactical Terminators from the Space Hulk game, because the models are so good. They're just like my favourite 40k models. And the reason I got into collecting Blood Angels, they're amazing. There's a Sergeant Gideon and Sergeant Lorenzo. Sergeant Lorenzo model, he's got like an amazing cloak sort of flying out the side, and he just looks like such a badass. So he's also on the painting table, so I can't wait to field them. And then I'm going to have a 10-man unit of Tactical Terminators. Storm Bolters are amazing these days, 4 shots. Obviously Terminators count for bolter discipline, whether they're moving or not. So they can teleport in and then shoot 24-inch range twice, so 4 shots each. That's 40 shots on a 10-man unit. There's lots of really good stratagems now to buff Terminators, like Fury of the First, which gives them +1 to hit. You can use that obviously in the shooting phase to make them hit on 2s, which with 40 shots will be totally horrible, especially if I drop them turn 2 where they've got -1 to hit because of the tactical doctrine. But then you could also use Fury of the First on their power fists, which is something that I find at the moment is something to hold them back a bit, the fact that they are hitting on 4s instead of 3s like most Marines. So yeah, I think they look amazing, and I can't wait. They're really expensive obviously and all that stuff. They're not a particularly competitive unit still, but I love the idea of just dropping 10 of them into cover, 2-up save, maybe even with the relic banner to give them a 5-up feel no pain. I think that'll be kind of hard to shift for some armies. And then if they do make combat, then they're going to be pretty horrible. Obviously 2 attack to base, +1 for shock assault, turn 3, +1 for savage echoes. That's 4 attacks each. So 36 power fist attacks is going to do some damage, especially when it's supported by those stratagems like Fury of the First. Blood Angels also have a stratagem called Strike of the Archangels. Archangels is the name for the first company in Blood Angels lore. And that gives, for the entire turn, that gives reroll hits, and that's reroll failed hits, but that's obviously for the shooting phase and for the fight phase. So if you couple that with Fury of the First, then you're spending a lot of CP, but if they get into combat, even when they're shooting, it's going to be really powerful. So I'm looking forward to that. The only thing I dislike about Terminators is that they're heavy weapons, like this assault cannon. They don't suffer. They suffer the negative to hit, so you drop them in, and then those assault cannons hitting on 4s, which is a bit rubbish. So I think that's something that Games Workshop should really do for Terminators, make them not suffer negatives for shooting heavy weapons, because that would just be kind of fluffy and cool. It wouldn't make them particularly better, but it would just mean that people would occasionally take an assault cannon instead of a storm bolter, which is probably much better for the points. Okay, so another elite choice that is very popular at the moment, and I totally love, is the Sanguinary Guard. I've got 10 of those. They've also got power fists. As I said, lots of power fists in these lists that I run. They've got power fists because before Psychic Awakening they were cheaper than the broadswords and the axes, also because it kind of looks cool. And as I said, I think I'm looking for ways to buff the hitting of these units. So maybe like a chaplain going forward would be really good, because it would mean that I could re-roll the failed hits. So that -1 to hit wouldn't be quite so bad, especially because chaplains now, even in Blood Angel armies, allow you to re-roll all hits rather than just failed hits. And also, with the number of attacks they put out now, it doesn't really matter that a few of them miss, because you tend to do a bunch of damage. Sanguinary Guard are amazing. They got really buffed by Psychic Awakening. They are still kind of expensive. There's some stratagems now that make them really good. There's one that allows them to do a minimum of 2 damage on their D3 damage weapons, which is really good. So Power Fists always causing at least 2 damage is really, really good, especially against armies that have like a really annoying Feel No Pains like Death Guard or Gene Stealers with Catalyst, where you really don't want to be doing 1 damage because they can sort of ignore it. It makes them really good, and obviously amazing against tanks and things like that because they're strength 8. +1 to wound with Blood Angels which makes them, kill most stuff really fairly easily. They are supported by another elite slot, which is the Ancient, this guy at the front here. On his own, he gives +1 to leadership, which is cool. He also allows models or units within 6 to reroll hit rolls of 1 wound rolls of 1. But the reason I run him is because there's a relic banner in Blood Angels called the Standard of Sacrifice, which gives models within 6 inches a 5-up Feel No Pain, which time and time again has been like the MVP of my army. If you drop him in with the Sanguinary Guard or the Terminators, you're sort of like reducing by 1/3 the number of wounds they take, which on these 2 wound models is really important because it means that they stay alive a lot longer. It can be really frustrating if you're on one of those days where you're rolling lots of 5s and 6s. It can make the Sanguinary Guard really, really tough. Sanguinary Guard don't have an invuln, but they do have a 2-up save naturally, which means if you can drop them in cover, then they're pretty tough anyway, especially with the Feel No Pain banner as well. So that's a combination I really love to run. Also, the Sanguinary Guard have a rule called Heir to Escalon, which means that if they are within 6 inches of the Warlord, they can reroll hits, reroll failed hits, which is a really nice buff for a combat army, even though I forget it sometimes. You might notice that in battle reports. So I sometimes make the Ancient and the Warlord. It's a bit cheesy, but it means that they sort of tend to be sitting together, and he then gives reroll hits, which is really cool. So lots of competitive lists, players like Stephen Box from Vanguard Tactics. He runs lots of Sanguinary Guard. I can't be asked to paint anymore. Painting those wings almost did me in. I painted 5. I was like, I'm never going to paint any more wings. And then I got overexcited and got another 5, so painted those as well. But now really not going to paint anymore because painting those white wings is painful. But yeah, if you look at sort of competitive Blood Angels lists these days, they'll often run 2 or 3 units because they're so good. Then another elite slot right on the left underneath the Storm Raven, or your right, sorry, is Ancient Faustus, who is my Furiosa Dreadnought. This is another unit that I painted when I first got back into 40k. I love him. He's so good. I mean, not necessarily rules-wise. He's hard to get into combat. That's why when I'm running a Storm Raven, I tend to leave him at home because he just walks 8 inches up the board and gets shot by anything. But if I've got the Storm Raven, I will put him in the magnet harness, or whatever it's called, mag harness, underneath, and fly him up the board, drop him down near the front lines of the enemy. He's got a frag cannon, which is an amazing weapon as well. 2d6 auto hits, which is really brutal. Turn 2 is now -2 because of Tactical Doctrine, because it's an assault weapon. And if you roll big on those auto hits against like a horde army, it's really funny to watch them fall apart. He's also got a heavy flame usually. You can give him all kinds of weapons, but I usually give him a heavy flame because why not have more auto hits? Again, not terribly competitive. He looks cool. It's just like an amazing Blood Angel unique unit that I love to run. And then to his right and your left is a 5-man unit of Death Company. Now, Death Company, I've always struggled with. I think I sort of feel like you've got to invest heavily in them. I find they die really easily. They obviously are horrible in combat, especially when you have enough of them. The main problem I have with Death Company is I don't really have enough. Like a 5-man unit of 1 wound Marines, they go down really easily, and I can't roll a 6-up Feel No Pain to save my life. But I think if I had, a few units of 15, then that's a different story. Like more will get into combat. When they do get into combat, we're talking about an obscene number of hits or attacks, especially when they're buffed by like the chaplains, Astrath and the Marties. They're just horrible. But yeah, I just need to paint some more around to it. And I don't know, I've kind of enjoyed the Samurai Guard more because they're a bit more survivable. And you have to do a lot of stuff with death companies to keep them alive, like wrapping units and stuff that is a bit beyond me tactically. Sometimes feels a bit cheesy. So yeah, I think I'll paint some more at some point. But at the moment, I've got other things I want to get through first. Yeah, so that's my army. I don't think I've forgotten anyone. If I did, then apologies, lads. So that's it. Okay, so going forward, the next thing I hinted at earlier, or said, is that I'm painting some intercessors. After I did the Dante conversion into a Primaris kind of body, I was like, okay, might as well get a few Primaris now, because this is obviously a predominantly all-star Marine army. I don't really have any, Gabriel Seth style aversion to Primaris Marines. I think the models are really, really cool. I think they sometimes look a bit weird when they're run beside old Marines, but I'm just going to suck it up. And, I don't actually have many Marines apart from some of my HQs. Once the Primaris come in, they will look all right against beside the Terminators, I guess, and the Sanguinary Guard. And I'll try to make them as look as Blood Angel-y as possible. I'm also going to run them as, charging up the board with assault bolters. That's the plan. Or assault rifles, whatever they're called. And Thunderhammers on the sergeants, because that's kind of Blood Angel-y, and I'm going to just see how they get on, really. Looking forward to painting them, though, because everyone says it's fun to paint Primaris. Yeah, and other things for the army. What am I looking forward to painting next? As I said, the more tactical Terminators, because they're really cool. I've got a bunch of assault Terminators as well, which I kind of want to paint, because again, I love Terminators. I've got some of the rapid fire Wargaming guys have got some Zone Mortalis boards, so we're thinking of doing some Space Hulk style Terminator boarding action kind of games, which would be really fun. Hopefully get those on the channel. I've also got some HQ Terminator units I want to paint, like I've got a librarian conversion, which is he's got a storm shield and an axe. I think he's probably a legend now, but it's all good. I think no one will really mind that too much if we run him. And a chaplain, one of my favourite models is the Terminator chaplain with the Crozius and the Stormbolter. So good, so I want to paint him up as well. Then going forward, I think I should probably try and get a chaplain on the board. Chaplains like the ability stuff and the fact that it's no longer automatic reroll hits in the fight phase for the chaplains, which I really loved as a buff, means I'm a bit wary of them. I don't like the idea of having to roll the dice in order to let their powers go off. Every time I need to roll that 3 up, I'm probably going to just roll a 1 or a 2, and then I'm going to spend CP to sort of re-roll it to make those litanies go off, which I'm not much of a fan of. But they are so good. I mean, like at the moment, Litanies of Hate is the only way of giving full re-rolls in the fight phase to Blood Angels, because our Chapter Master hasn't been upgraded. And also some of the other ones, I think like maybe there'll be a good mileage in having a chaplain in the backfield like Astrath. If I wasn't running Dante, I'd probably put Astrath in the backfield next to any heavy weapons I've got, allow him to buff them in the first turn or the first 2 turns, and then when my main attack hits, I'll jump him up using Upon Wings of Fire to buff that push into their lines with my melee units. I love the fluff of chaplains. I think they're amazing. But yeah, as I say, I wish I didn't have to roll those dice for those litanies, because I'm going to be spending a lot of CP to do it. But that's okay, because I'm hoping to run it to double battalion pretty soon with those Primaris as well, which will mean that I will have a few more CP to play with. At the moment, all my lists tend to be really CP heavy. You're wanting to use all those nice Blood Angel stratagems for redeploying people or for getting the 3d6 into charges. So very often I'll get to turn 2 and be out CP. So it'd be really nice to be able to have another battalion. So I'll get another 5 of those, which would be really useful for these CP hungry lists that I run. So that's the future of the army. Give us a shout, put some comments below about what you'd like to see, what you think I should be running, which are your favourite Primaris units for Blood Angels. how you run your armies. I haven't really talked much about how I run my armies, but I guess you may have seen the battle reports anyway. And let us know what you'd like to see them up against. I love playing Blood Angels. Since I've played 40k, I've only ever played one other game with Phil's Knights. So, this is the only army I run really. If you've got any tips about how I can be running better, beyond just buy loads of Primaris, then put the messages below, put some comments below, and subscribe to the channel. Check out the battle reports if you haven't already. We're all on Instagram. My handle is Danvers_RFW. So go and check out some painting on there if you want to. Give me a follow and I'll follow you back. And thanks for watching this. And I hope I haven't rambled on too much. And keep washing those hands, people.